You know, you reached out to us recently asking for a way to decode the hidden mechanics of office politics.
Which is a massive topic.
Right. I mean, you wanted to know why sometimes it feels like you're playing a game at work, but everyone else was somehow handed a secret rule book.
Yeah, that invisible game that's always happening.
Exactly. Like you're doing the actual work, you're checking all the boxes, staying late, and yet somebody who maybe does half the actual work you do is the one moving up the ladder.
It's incredibly frustrating.
It really is. It leaves you wondering what invisible game they are playing that you are just totally blind to. So we have curated a deep dive customized specifically for you today to answer that exact question.
And we are pulling from a fascinating stack of sources for this one.
Well,
But we are anchoring this exploration on a very raw manifesto published in 2026.
right, the one called 55 Essays by Corporate Machiavelli.
That's the one.
And the backstory on the source material is, well, it's incredibly dramatic.
It really belongs in a movie.
It does. It was written under a pseudonym by a highly successful CXO, meaning someone in the C-suite, like a chief executive or operations officer who had climbed to the absolute top of the corporate mountain.
The peak of the hierarchy.
Yes. And out of nowhere, this person was diagnosed with an incurable disease.
And that diagnosis is the catalyst for the entire text. Faced with his own mortality, this executive decided he had absolutely nothing left to lose.
No HR department to fear.
Right, no board of directors to placate. So he decided to publish these 55 essays as his legacy, just presenting his unvarnished, completely unfiltered view of how corporate power actually operates behind closed doors.
Okay, let's unpack this carefully because I want to set a clear boundary for you, the listener, right up front.
Yeah, that's really important here.
The worldview in this book is deeply cynical, like incredibly dark. So to be clear, we are not taking sides here, and we certainly aren't endorsing this as the only valid way to live your life or manage your career.
Oh, definitely not.
Our mission for this deep dive is simply to explore this author's philosophy objectively, because the objective isn't to take this text and learn how to become a ruthless, backstabbing corporate shark.
No, the goal is to extract the core insights to achieve what the author calls consciousness.
Yes, to stop being a naive pawn in other people's games.
Exactly.
So where do we even begin with a framework this heavy?
Well, to understand how to survive the game, we first have to understand the board we're playing on. The foundational premise of this manifesto draws really heavily on Anthony Jay's seminal 1967 work.
Oh, management and Machiavelli.
Yes. The core argument there is that modern corporations are, in essence, self-contained sovereign states.
Sovereign states? You mean like their own little countries operating independently?
Yeah, Jay argued, and our anonymous CXO builds on this entirely, that beneath the smooth, modern corporate veneers, glass office towers operate fundamentally like Renaissance Italy or Tudor England.
Tudor England, wow!
They possess barons, courtiers, diplomats. They enforce an orthodox religion, which, we now call company culture or core value.
Right.
And they punish dissenting nonconformism as pure heresy.
Mm-hmm.
So to understand the corporation, the source insists you have to view it through the lens of statecraft.
Okay, I am going to push back on this pretty hard.
Go for it.
Isn't this just a bit dramatic for the sake of a catchy book title? I mean, I'm looking at my weekly Zoom sync or the modern HR department.
Sure.
We have free snacks in the break room, wellness seminars, casual Fridays. Are we really saying a tech startup or a mid-sized marketing firm is fundamentally the same as the cutthroat Medici family in 16th century Florence? Like, where are the dungeons and torture chambers?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the physical venue has changed, sure, and the overt tactics have certainly been sanitized, but human psychology, it hasn't evolved a single inch since the Middle Ages.
So we're still just running on fear and ambition.
Exactly. The driving forces of any large human organization are still self-interest, fear, and ambition. Think about those barons for a moment.
Okay.
In a modern corporation, they are your vice presidents, but they're hoarding department budgets instead of land. They're fighting proxy wars over headcounts and resources.
Oh, I see what you mean.
In this environment, power is the ultimate currency. Every other metric, money, status, influence, flows directly from the accumulation of power. And the philosophy governing all of this is strictly amoral.
Amoral, meaning it operates outside the bounds of good and evil entirely.
Completely outside. The concepts of right and wrong just do not factor into the equation when a person is in the pure pursuit of power. The only question the corporate Machiavellian asks is this effective?
Does this action yield leverage?
Exactly. It is a philosophy of brutal pragmatism.
So if the corporation is this ruthless, amoral Renaissance state, the person who thrives in it definitely isn't the employee just quietly doing a great job at their desk.
No, unfortunately not.
The source introduces a specific mindset required to survive using the term Heimak. I'm assuming that is short for Machiavellian.
Yes, it is.
But how does that actually manifest in a person walking around the office?
Well, Machiavellianism is a recognized psychological trait. It's actually part of what psychologists call the dark triad of personality traits.
The dark triad. Sounds intense.
Very. And the high Mach individual is someone who naturally scores very high in this area. Research suggests that through a process of natural corporate selection, this specific personality type inevitably fills the vast majority of managerial and executive posts.
Really? The vast majority?
Basically, yeah. And their most prominent trait is emotional detachment. They do not form emotional bonds that could cloud their strategic judgment.
Huh. So they view relationships primarily as instruments.
Exactly. Levers to be pulled to achieve specific goals.
To explain how a Heimak sees the world, the author borrows that famous pop culture framework from The Matrix. The red pill versus the blue pill.
Classic analogy.
We hear this terminology a lot online, but how does the CXO apply it to the workplace?
So the blue pill represents the comforting illusions we are all fed from childhood about how the professional world works.
The lies.
Right, the lies. Things like hard work is always rewarded. The company operates like a family.
Oh, I've heard that one.
Your colleagues want what's best for you. And the system is fundamentally a meritocracy.
Essentially the stuff printed on the motivational posters in the corporate hallway.
Exactly. But the high Mac takes the red pill. And the red pill truths strip away the sentimentality. The reality, according to this manifesto, is that the corporate world is a zero-sum game of power, not merit.
So your colleagues are active competitors?
Yes. The company is an unfeeling entity that does not care about you, which makes loyalty entirely a one-way street. Success comes solely from calculated strategic action, not from keeping your head down and grinding out deliverables.
You know, that makes me think of sitting down at a high-stakes poker table.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. Because you don't necessarily hate the people sitting across from you. You might even go grab a drink with them after the game. But you would be an absolute fool to think they are going to fold a winning hand just to be nice to you.
Definitely.
If you sit at that table believing everyone is there to help you succeed, you are going to lose all your money. You have to play the cards, not the illusions.
That analogy perfectly captures the dynamic. The chips on the table are organizational power. But the high Mac takes the poker game a step further.
How so?
By viewing their own identity as an ongoing project. Every single action they take, a casual conversation by the elevator, a favor they do for a junior employee, a question they ask in a meeting, it's all a calculated investment in tomorrow's leverage.
Wow.
Nothing is wasted. Nothing is purely spontaneous.
I mean, living like that sounds absolutely exhausting. The mental load of analyzing every single interaction for leverage. But I guess it also explains why they win.
It does.
So how does a high Mac actually behave in the trenches? Like, what does this look like on a random Tuesday afternoon?
Well, the source draws heavily here on concepts from an anonymous 1996 book called The Mafia Manager.
Catchy title.
Very. And the practical rules of engagement are where the philosophy gets very actionable. Rule 1 is a classic Machiavellian principle. Perception is reality.
Okay, meaning what, practically?
Meaning, appearing virtuous and competent matters infinitely more than actually being virtuous or competent.
Ah, because perception is the data point that actually drives promotions and investment from superior.
You nailed it. And Rule 2 is the golden rule of office politics. Never enter any political battle or take any significant action without first asking, what's in it for me?
Okay, and then what?
Followed immediately by what's in it for them. You must map out the incentives of everyone involved before making a move.
I want to dig into two specific quotes from the text regarding this daily behavior because they really stopped me in my tracks.
I think I know which ones you mean.
The author advises, quote, if you must lie, be brief. And secondly, talk dumb, like a 100 IQ person.
Yeah, those are pretty bold statements.
Let's debate the second one. We live in a modern corporate world driven by OKRs, KPIs, and ruthless performance metrics.
Right.
If I strategically talk like I have an average or below average IQ, I'm not going to fly under the radar. I'm going to get fired for underperformance. How does lowering expectations actually work as a strategy?
Well, what's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of the corporate ego. It isn't about deliberately failing to hit your performance metrics. It's about lacking threat.
Lacking threat.
In the corporate state, shining too brightly or constantly demonstrating how brilliant you are triggers insecurity in your superiors. Robert Greene unpacks this in the 48 Laws of Power with his first law. Never outshine the master.
Ah, okay.
By modulating your intellect to appear highly agreeable, competent, but unremarkable, you disarm the fragile egos above you.
You essentially make yourself invisible to the predators.
Camouflage is the perfect word for it. You keep yourself completely off the radar of those who might view a rising star as a threat to their own position.
So it buys you time.
Exactly, allowing you to quietly accumulate alliances and resources until you are ready to strike.
That makes a twisted sort of sense. And what about that first quote? If you must lie, be brief. Why brief?
This ties into the absolute master skill of the high Mac, which is plausible deniability.
Right.
The longer and more elaborate a lie or an excuse becomes, the more structural weaknesses it has, and the more likely it is to collapse under scrutiny.
You just end up tripping over your own story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Brief lies, vague answers, and strategic silence create a fog. It allows you to later say, oh, that wasn't my understanding, or I wasn't privy to that context.
You are constructing an environment where your true intentions remain hidden behind a wall of plausible deniability.
Yes.
So if you are listening to this, you might be trying to figure out where you fit into this cutthroat ecosystem.
Naturally.
And the source actually maps out the cast of characters, right? The archetypes that inhabit every office on Earth. Let's walk through those so the listener can identify the players on their own board.
Sure. The text breaks down the spectrum of players into 4 distinct archetypes. The first is the naive pawn.
Okay, the naive pawn.
This is the individual who has swallowed the blue pill lies whole. They trust the system, implicitly. They believe corporate loyalty will actually be rewarded in the long run.
Oh, boy.
They wear their emotions on their sleeve, and as a result, they are endlessly and easily manipulated by everyone else around them.
Ouch. The naive pawn is the one grinding out the 60-hour what's while a manager takes the credit for their deliverables.
You see it all the time.
But, you know, if a naive pawn realizes this, if they get burned badly enough and wake up to the reality of the game, I imagine they might overcorrect.
Oh, they definitely do.
Like, they might swing entirely in the opposite direction and rebel against all the rules.
Which brings us to the second archetype, representing that exact overcorrection. The cynical operator.
The cynical operator.
Right. This person has taken the red pill, but they possess zero moral compass and, crucially, zero restraint. They are completely amoral and ruthless.
But the author warns that this is a trap, right?
It is a fatal trap. The cynical operator manipulates way too openly. They take credit too aggressively and burn bridges without a second thought.
They make too much noise.
Exactly. Eventually, they self-destruct because they create an army of aggrieved enemies who will inevitably pool their resources to orchestrate the operator's downfall.
They win a few skirmishes, but lose the war because they become universally despised.
Precisely.
So if the pawn is too soft and the operator is too destructive, there has to be a survival mechanism for someone who sees the game but doesn't want to make enemies.
And that survival mechanism is embodied in the third archetype, the court jester.
The jester.
The jester fully understands the Machiavellian reality of the office, but chooses to navigate it by using self-deprecating humor.
Just playing the fool.
Yes. By constantly making themselves the butt of the joke, they appear entirely harmless to the high Machs. They use humor to deflect tension and avoid taking hard, controversial positions. They successfully avoid the crosshairs and survive, but they rarely ascend to true power.
Which leaves us with the ultimate goal of the manifesto, the sweet spot.
The pragmatic professional. This archetype represents the ideal balance. The pragmatic professional has swallowed the red pill and understands the invisible chessboard perfectly.
But they don't self-destruct.
No. Unlike the cynical operator, they exercise their power with immense restraint. They understand that unchecked ambition invites resistance, so they maintain long-term ethical constraints.
But they don't do it out of the goodness of their hearts, do they?
No, not at all. They maintain ethics because it is strategically sound. Being reliable, appearing trustworthy, and occasionally letting a superior take the win, it's the most effective way to build sustainable long-term alliances.
Okay, think about a project pitch meeting.
Right.
The pragmatic professional might have the brilliant idea, but they intentionally guide their manager into thinking they came up with it themselves. They sacrifice the short-term ego boost of being the smartest person in the room for the long-term leverage of having a manager who relies on them heavily.
That's the playbook.
If you've just been keeping your head down, working incredibly hard, and expecting the universe to spontaneously reward you, well, wait, no, if you just expect things to happen, you might be the naive pawn.
Almost certainly.
And the goal here isn't to flip a switch and become the cynical operator who ruins people's careers. It's to level up to the pragmatic professional. You
Yeah.
have to see the board so you can choose how to play.
The pragmatic professional doesn't blindly trust the organization, but they don't needlessly destroy their colleagues either. They navigate the currents.
I want to shift gears to how this applies today.
Good idea.
Because a lot of these concepts, Renaissance states, Machiavelli, mafia bosses, they feel very ancient,
No,
very analog.
for sure.
How does a philosophy rooted in a 16th century Florentine diplomat actually survive in a modern tech landscape of remote work, Slack channels, and constant HR monitoring?
That tension is exactly what makes this 2026 text so uniquely valuable. It explores how the corporate Machiavelli adapts to the future of work. Take the gig economy, for instance.
Okay.
In a world increasingly dominated by freelancers, contractors, and job hopping, the old illusion of corporate loyalty is undeniably dead. Everyone is forced to operate as a free agent.
So loyalty doesn't even exist to begin with.
Right. And the HIMAC thrives in this environment because they already viewed professional relationships as temporary conditional alliances anyway.
And what about corporate culture issues, like navigating modern corporate wokeness or company values can be a minefield? How does the HIMAC handle virtue signaling?
With total detached impartiality.
Detached.
Yeah, the HIMAC views corporate virtue signaling simply as a new vocabulary they need to master. They do not internalize it as a deeply held moral stance.
Nor do they waste political capital fighting against it like a culture warrior.
Exactly. They treat company values as flexible tools. They learn the exact phrases required to maintain their pristine appearance of virtue, and they deploy that language strategically to blend in.
I have to ask about the most glaring obstacle to all of this, which the text calls the surveillance economy.
Oh, this is huge.
Right. If every keystroke on Slack, every email, every badge swipe is logged and tracked by corporate IT, doesn't that kill the ability to be a Machiavellian?
You would think so.
I mean, you can't exactly plot in the shadows or corner someone by the water cooler when a server in the basement has a permanent record of your chat history.
Well, this raises an important question and clarifies the most critical adaptation in the book. The surveillance economy doesn't end the game. It merely shifts the primary battleground to information warfare.
Information warfare. So if they can't have secret meetings, are you saying they use the surveillance tools against the company? Like flooding Slack with fake positivity?
Precisely that. Because you cannot plot in secret, power becomes about who controls the flow of information. It involves hoarding useful data and only releasing it when it maximizes your leverage.
That's devious.
But more importantly, it is about weaponizing this surveillance system to manage a flawless personal brand. The corporate Machiavellian in the digital age never puts a single controversial thought in writing.
Not one.
None. They use Slack and email strictly to build a trackable, undeniable record of their own compliance and virtue.
They are essentially operating as their own PR firm on the company servers.
They feed the algorithm exactly what it wants to see. Plausible deniability becomes digital. They conduct their real power moves verbally, off-camera, or in the spaces between the data points, while leaving a pristine digital paper trail that HR would just love.
We have covered a massive amount of ground here. The amoral mindset, the red pill truths, the strategic utility of lowering expectations, and how to weaponize a Slack channel.
It's a lot to take in.
It is a heavy and, frankly, somewhat dark framework. But I want to summarize the core lesson of this deep dive for you, the listener.
Yeah, let's bring it all together.
The ultimate takeaway from Corporate Machiavelli isn't a manual on how to become a villain. It is a demand for consciousness.
Right. It provides the gift of clarity. By stripping away those comforting blue pill illusions, you are finally able to see the structural reality of the room you are standing in.
So what does this all mean for you tomorrow morning?
That is the big question.
It means acknowledging that this invisible chessboard is actively in play, whether you choose to participate in the game or not.
Exactly. You cannot opt out of office politics. You can only choose to play them poorly.
Yes. You can either wake up and be a player, aware of the forces moving around you, or you can remain a piece on someone else's board, being sacrificed to serve an agenda you don't even understand.
But, if we follow the author's logic all the way to its absolute conclusion, it leaves us with a final provocative thought to ponder.
Ooh, I like a final provocative thought. Let's hear it.
We've established that the ultimate goal of this manifesto is for the individual reader to wake up, to achieve consciousness and become a master strategist who sees through the lies.
Right.
But consider what happens if everyone in a company reads this text and achieves this consciousness.
Oh, wow.
What if a corporation becomes entirely populated by Hymax, a building full of master strategists who all know the exact same tricks, who all view each other purely as instruments?
And who all hide behind perfect, plausible deniability.
Yes. Does that company inevitably collapse into an endless paranoid gridlock where no actual work gets done because no one trusts anyone?
That sounds like a nightmare.
Or does it actually evolve into the most brutally efficient, highly functioning, transparent machine ever built, simply because all the exhausting illusions have finally been burned away?
A whole company of poker players where everyone knows everyone else is counting cards. That is wild.
It's a fascinating thing to think about.
Next time you're in a meeting and you feel like you're missing the secret rule book, just remember, the rules aren't actually a secret.
No, they just aren't the ones printed in the employee handbook.
Exactly. Now you can at least see the board.